The worst mistake of my career. This happened in 2007 during the time I served in the Army. I was a 46R, which is the military job title for a broadcast journalist. If you've ever seen the movie Good Morning Vietnam, it was kind of like that. That was my job, telling the stories of soldiers, capturing military life on camera, and documenting events both big and small. I joined the Army in 2005. At the time, I had this picture in my head of what my life would be like. I thought maybe I'd be stationed overseas, in Germany or somewhere else in Europe. Maybe I'd get to work at a military-run radio or TV station and travel a bit. I imagined filming ceremonies, interviews, and lighthearted moments in different parts of the world. But the Army had different plans for me. When I got my first official orders, I saw I was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division, also called 1ID. I was excited when I first read that. At the time, their headquarters were in Germany. I thought, perfect, just like I hoped. But it turned out that around then, this was in 2006, the 1ID headquarters was moving from Germany to Fort Riley, Kansas. So instead of flying across the ocean, I packed up my car and drove to the small city of Junction City, Kansas. Not exactly what I had pictured, but I went where they needed me. Shortly after I got to Fort Riley, I was reassigned. Instead of staying at the 1ID headquarters, I was sent to the 4th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, 4 IBCT, also part of the 1st Infantry Division. I moved up the hill on base to an area called Custer Hill and started my new role there. I was still doing the same kind of work, making videos, telling stories, and preparing for what was coming next: deployment. In February 2007, we deployed to Iraq. We were one of 5 brigades that were part of what people called the Surge, a strategy President Bush had announced to send more troops into Iraq. Our brigade was the 2nd of the 5 to arrive. We were sent to a place called Forward Operating Base Falcon, or just FOB Falcon, which sat on the southern edge of Baghdad. Our area of operation was a part of the city known as the Rashid District. As a broadcast journalist in the Army, my job was to cover everything. That meant I filmed both inside the base and out in the field. Inside the base, most things were routine: awards ceremonies, command changes, briefings. Outside the wire, outside the safety of the base, things got real. I went on all kinds of missions. I traveled with high-ranking generals like General Petraeus when he came to visit and see progress with his own eyes. I also went on raids in the middle of the night with infantry units, breaking down doors looking for insurgents. I filmed everything from medical clinics opening to dangerous route clearance patrols, where we searched for hidden bombs. We were in one of the worst parts of Baghdad, and the fighting was intense. Our unit's award later said it clearly: we were in one of the most dangerous and complex urban battlefields in Iraq. That's not an exaggeration. It was constant. Explosions, gunfire, loss. It was everywhere. And part of my job, one that no one really prepared me for, was to film the memorial services of the soldiers in our brigade who were killed in action. In the first 4 months alone, we lost 63 soldiers. Over our 15-month deployment, that number grew to 100. Every time a soldier died, we held a battlefield memorial service. Every time I was there with my camera. Sometimes, when multiple soldiers died in the same incident, we held one service for them all. I remember one where 5 or 6 were honored together. These were heavy days. You don't just stand there with a camera and forget what you're seeing. You feel it. You carry it. But after a while, something strange happens. You start to go numb. You've cried already. You've heard taps too many times. You've watched families send photos, letters, and mementos that get displayed next to a pair of empty boots, a helmet on a rifle, and dog tags hanging still. At some point, your brain stops reacting the same way. You're trying to protect yourself emotionally. And that's dangerous. Because when something becomes routine, you stop giving it the attention it deserves. One night, we had another memorial. I honestly don't remember the exact date or who the service was for. I only remember that it was for a battalion that wasn't originally part of our brigade. It was the 118th Infantry, part of the 2nd Brigade. They had been attached to us for the deployment. As always, I filmed the service. Everything went as usual. I returned the camera gear to our office, then went to sleep. I had another mission scheduled early the next day. The following day, I went out on that mission, filmed everything I needed, and returned to the office to upload the footage and begin editing. I plugged in the camera, scrolled through the files, and then I froze. I realized that I had recorded over the first part of the memorial service from the night before. My stomach dropped, my heart started racing. I knew right away how bad this was. Memorial services are not something you mess up. They are sacred. They are meant for the families of the fallen, to give them something, some sense of closure, a glimpse of how their loved one was honored by the people who served beside them. These videos are sent home with the personal belongings of the soldier. They're part of how we say goodbye. And I had failed. I went to my boss and told him what happened. I was bracing for him to get angry, but all he said was, "Okay." No yelling, no accusations, just a quiet, "Okay." A couple of days later, he came to me with a plan. We would refilm the parts I had lost. That meant we had to ask the battalion commander, the company commander, and the squad leader to come back to the chapel and give their speeches again. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for them. These weren't actors, they were grieving leaders. They had lost one of their own. And now, because of my mistake, they had to relive that loss in front of a camera, just so I could piece the footage together. But they did it. I filmed them again. Then I carefully spliced the new footage into the rest of the original video. We sent it back home to the family. From the outside, it probably looked like everything went fine. But inside, I was torn apart. Even now, nearly 2 decades later, I still think about that moment. That mistake is the worst I've ever made in my professional life. Nothing else has ever come close. It was a turning point for me. After that, I changed how I worked. I double-checked everything. I was more careful, more thoughtful, and more focused. But no amount of improvement could erase how that moment felt. Still, I'm incredibly grateful to my leadership. No one screamed at me. No one tried to make me feel worse than I already did. They understood. They saw the weight I was carrying. I was just one person, tasked with documenting so much grief, so much death. It was too much sometimes. Looking back, those memorial services are the most meaningful thing I ever did in the Army. Nothing compares. I captured something important, not just for history, but for families. For those who couldn't be there to say goodbye, I brought them the moment. I helped honor their loved ones. And even though I made a mistake, I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of what I did during that deployment. But I'll never forget that awe and error. It taught me a lesson I carry to this day. After 4 years, I left the Army and moved into public affairs work for the federal government. I stayed close to storytelling, communication, and service. But something in me changed during those 15 months in Iraq. That time shaped me. Filming so many memorials shaped me. It left a mark that will never fade. Would I go back and do it differently? No. Despite the pain, the weight, and the pressure, I believe it was an important mission at a critical time. I showed up and did my job. I gave everything I had. But that mistake, that single moment of carelessness born from exhaustion and numbness, still stays with me. And I think it always will.